Hey everybody! So hopefully you are ready to cast on for the Elroy knit along. You have done your gauge swatch, you picked out your yarn, you found needles, you printed off the pattern, maybe not in that order, and you are ready to cast on. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my recommended cast on for the Elroy shawl today. I'm also going to show you how to do that triple yarn over. It's very simple. And as well as how to do that knit purl knit into the triple yarn over. And I'm also going to show you the method that I use for a wrap and turn, and we can talk about some of the other ways that you can do a wrap and turn for short rows. And I would need to show you how to do the yarn over at the beginning of a row. Again, very simple. Hard to wrap your mind around for some people, but very simple. Let's see, what else? Oh, and then right at the end of things, after I've gone through that, then I want to talk about spinning in terms of plying. So I'll talk about plying and some of the important considerations that you need to think about when you get ready to ply your yarn, since we did that spinning session last week. And I actually have 2 bobbins full of singles so I can ply. So that's kind of the agenda for the video today. Just a few things to remind you. Big clearance sale at Black Sheep Fiber Emporium, so make sure you're checking the website. If you're local, make an appointment with Tina because she is now available for appointments. And they're starting to do some groups at her house on the back patio occasionally, which is great. We also have some books on clearance, so make sure you check out the clearance books. They're just, prices are slashed and you can just go in and order it. So there's no code, just go order. It's already been reduced. What else do I need to talk about? Slow crawl. Slow crawl is still happening. We still have 35 shops. I have heard that sadly Serial Knitters is going to close at the end of the summer, at least their physical in-person shop. It's very sad. So make sure that you give them a little extra love and support, because they are going to, I think, try to transition to an online shop, at least for a while. So we'd really love them to stick around, and I know all of you are thinking that too. So make sure that you are supporting your local yarn stores. You know, sometimes owners decide that it's just time to retire, or they're going in a different direction. And so some of our favorite shops will close. But if you can, go ahead and support your local so they can stay open. I am trying to find my live post so that I can click on it and I can make sure that I am reading your comments, because, you know, I get worried. I know I missed comments a few times. So, hey, it says Brooke is watching. Hi, Brooke. You might be the only person on today, so that's okay. Let's see. So what I'll do is I will go ahead and I'm going to flip the camera down so that we can take a look at how much I have done so far on my knit along. And once we've done that, then I may try to go ahead and just segue right into the spinning. We'll see. I'm not sure exactly what the best angle is going to be, so please forgive me. It might be a little bit, you know, jiggly. So let me just move this forward. And we'll turn this, and there's the kitty. Say hi, Marshmallow. And my bed, right? Okay, and here's this is my lovely little bag where I have my knitting. So, first of all, I adore this yarn. I have to say, this Handmaiden Sea Lace, oh my God, it is so nice to knit with. I really like it. It has a great hand. It has a really nice drape, even though I haven't blocked anything yet. Super lovely yarn. And yes, I am wearing 2 Band-Aids today. I managed to cut my finger open while I was weeding, on the side of a piece of grass or something. It's very weird. I know. I'm just really accident prone. You know, I got pregnant and then my ability to balance sort of deserted me. So ever since I got pregnant, I have been extra clumsy. Okay, so I went ahead and I finished out my row because I didn't want to leave stitches unworked on my needle here. But this right here, this is the triple yarn over. Really easy. triple yarn over right here. If you look on your chart, it's this little circle with a 3 in it. So that just means that it's 3 wraps on that yarn over. And I'm just going to back this out enough that I can show you how to do that. So give me just a moment as I tink it back. And there we go. Should be all set up now. And I think this is Angelus. I'm not sure. Hi. Hello. How are you? All right. So now I'm set up. I've worked all the way across my row, and I am ready to do my triple yarn over. So this is a really easy thing. We yarn over once, we yarn over twice, we yarn over a 3rd time, and now we have 3 wraps right there on the needle. 1, 2, 3, right? Very simple. And then to finish out my row, I just need to do a slip, slip, knit, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2. And that was it. Seriously, that is how easy it is. You can do double wraps, triple wraps. Some patterns have as much as like 5, 6, 7 wraps, and that's really all it takes. Now the key to these multi-wrap yarn overs is that when you come back to them, you can't just go knit, 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 or purl, purl, purl. Because if you do that, then your yarn kind of twists around itself and it doesn't actually form the proper stitches. So when you have these multi-yarn over sections, what you have to do is you have to do like a knit, purl, knit, or if you have 4 of them, knit, purl, etc. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but before we get to that, I want to show you how to do the yarn over at the end of a row. And again, this is just really easy here again. Super easy, right? So all I'm going to do is just loop my yarn around my needle. Some people do this by accident, but it makes this really big, fun loop along the edge here, this yarn over loop. So we're just going to yarn over at the end of the needle, very simple. And we're going to purl 2 together. Just give me a minute there. Purl 2 together. And then I'm just going to purl over to my triple yarn over. So see, that was really simple. You just held it around there at the end. It just hangs out at the end, making a loop. And now this extra yarn over here has created a new stitch here at the end of the row. Super easy, something fun, a little bit different that you don't see in a lot of patterns. Not hard to do. You just add that extra loop. And then we are over here to the triple yarn over. See, 1, 2, 3 wraps. So when we come to this, we are going to purl the first stitch, move our yarn, knit the second stitch, move our yarn, and purl the 3rd stitch. That's all it takes. It's a knit, purl, knit. And it makes these big open holes in your work, these big open eyelets. And if you're wondering how to count, so you know how many repeats you've done of a chart, I think this is the easiest way to do it, is to count these big triple yarn overs. So this is like 1/2, 1. This will be 1 1/2, etc. as I go along. So I've done 1 repeat of the chart and I'm into my 2nd repeat. So that's how I count those. That's how I can tell where I am. You can also add a locking stitch marker if you want along the side or at the top so that you can remember where you are. And then the rest of this row is just purling back across. Now the only other piece of this shawl that might be a little tricky for you if you haven't worked a lot of lace is, or if you haven't done a lot of knitting, I should say, is the wrap and turn. Because with a wrap and turn, what you're doing is you're working to a certain point, and then you actually need to turn around and go the other way, but you don't want to leave a hole in your knitting. So what you have to do is wrap the working yarn around a stitch that you will not knit or purl or work, however you want to think of it. And then you are going to continue back the way that you just came. So you don't actually finish out the row. It allows you to do a partial row. It's a short row. It's a shortened version of the row that you were doing. And so This row is not actually the wrap and turn row, but I'm going to go ahead and pretend that it is, and I will just show you how to do that wrap and turn. Does anybody have questions so far on how to do some of these things? That really easy yarn over at the end, or the triple yarn over, or how to work with that when you get to it. Marshmallow, leave the blinds alone. Thank you. He is just full of himself today. He's been running around the house, bouncing all over the place. Crazy little cat. Okay, so just keep working, just keep working. So if this were a row that I was going to wrap and turn, so it's supposed to be a short row, then when I came to my stitch, what I would do, let's pretend, is go ahead and I've been purling, right? So all of my stitches up to this point have been purls. So what I need to do is move my yarn to the back because I need to wrap it knitwise since I'm on a purl row. And I'm just going to move my stitch over, bring my yarn in front of that, move my stitch back. And now what I can do is I can turn my hand around and I won't have a hole because what I've done is I've closed the little gap that would have occurred between these two stitches here by wrapping my working yarn around this to make that short row. Now, there are different ways to treat this short row when you come back to it. Some people will leave it. I just let my short row sit. I didn't worry about it. Let's see if I can find one of my short rows. It should be somewhere. There's one. I think. Yeah, there's one. So there's a little short row here. I just let it sit as a collar around the base of this stitch. And honestly, you can't really see it. You can kind of tell it's there. It took me a little bit to find it. I mean, I really had to dig to find it, right? So with this lace weight, I don't worry about it as much. With heavier weights of yarn, I would be picking that up and I would be knitting it together either in a slip knit or a knit two together or even a knit two together through the back loop, depending on my pattern, to reduce the appearance of this wrapped stitch. So that is definitely something that you should think about. Now, if you've wrapped the wrong stitch, it's really easy to back your way out. Just like this. Just unwrap it and you can keep going. Or if you've wrapped it on the wrong row. And this is not the row where my stitch needs to be wrapped. So I'm just going to bring it all the way back across. Let's see, if you haven't yet cast on and you've read your pattern, you may notice that I recommended either the long tail or the twisted German, which is also known as the Old Norwegian cast on for this pattern. And the reason that I did that was you do need a little bit of structure along this edge, along this cast on edge here. Because you want it to hold its shape. You don't want it to fall apart. You don't want it to be too stretchy. So you want a little bit of stretch, but you don't want too much stretch. Now I chose to use the twisted German cast on here along my edge. Oh look, my band-aids match my work today. And look at how pretty that Nova Scotia is knitting up. Isn't that pretty? I just love, I mean, it's definitely variegated. You can see that there's definitely blue and green in here, but it's so pretty and I just love the way this starts to work up. I'm so glad I'm reknitting this pattern. I just really like this one. And the function of those short rows is that it gives you just a little bit of shape. I'm just gonna pick this up for a second. So it gives you just a little bit of shape along the edge here, so you get just a little bit more of the flow and the flutter down along the edge than you would if you were just knitting this straight. So that's why I chose to go ahead and put the short rows in here. And you can see where I have not quite full repeats at the top and then the full repeats as they come down, and how this is just a smidgen wider than it would be if I had worked the whole thing like that. So there we are. You could use a knitted on cast on if you want. I would not use a cable cast on. I would not use a backward loop cast on or an over the thumb loop cast on, if you want to think of it like that. either, for a couple of reasons. Again, you want some structure to this edge. You want just a little structure. You want it to have a little bit of give, but you don't want it to be too loose. And a backwards loop would be way too loose. The cable cast on would be too tight. So if you don't want to do a regular long tail or the Old Norwegian slash twisted German cast on, then I would recommend using a knitted on cast on for the edge of your shawl, because that's also going to match your bind off a little bit better than most other cast ons. So those would be the 3 that I would use. I recommended 2 of them, but you know, just in case. Just something to think about. Let's see, so we covered the triple yarn over, how to deal with the triple yarn over, the yarn over at the end of the row, wraps and turns. We talked about the cast on. At this point, that's most of what goes into this, because you just keep repeating. So next Monday, I'll show you how far I've made it, and hopefully I will have several repeats done. I do believe that in my pattern, I said you should repeat the 24 rows of the pattern chart 18 times before you knit your 4 rows and bind off. However, if you wanted to do fewer repeats, you could. If you have yarn left, you could do more repeats. There's nobody telling you that you can't do more or less. So once I get close to 18 repeats, I will make that decision myself. But if you have questions or need help, or you're looking at something and you just really don't understand it, now's a great time to ask any questions, because I do have the comments up so I can read them, which is great. But if you need help and I'm not doing one of the live sessions that day, you can always leave a comment or a message at Black Sheep, or you can send me a message through my email. So your choice. Okay, whoops, sorry about that. Now let's go ahead, and I'm just going to move my camera a bit and get my wheel set up. See, I already have my wheel waiting. And we'll talk about plying, 2-ply specifically, because that's what I'm ready to do. And yes, that is a rock, and it is painted like a Dutch bunny, which is the breed that I raise. So, let's see if I have enough wheel in the photo. Nope, I don't. Okay, let me move this just a bit more and turn it down. And hopefully now, oh, that's not bad. It could be better, but it's not bad. Okay, so I have oiled my wheel. And if you missed my Instagram post, my drive band broke. Totally broke. As I predicted that it would. So let me find where, there it is. So here's the little point at which it broke, and I melted it back together, and I really need to sand this down because now it makes a little sound as it goes around my wheel, and I know that's going to add extra wear on my wheel. So I need to sand this down, but I haven't done it yet. I also took a hairdryer and I warmed up my treadle connectors. So I don't know if you can, there's my treadle connectors, but they were really stiff. And so I went ahead and warmed up my treadle connectors and pedaled for a little bit to help stretch them out a little bit, since it had been so long since I had used my wheel. So there's my wheel. And I put lots of oil on my wheel as I was spinning. So I oiled here, and I oiled, there's a little connector piece here, and then I always put a drop of oil in here under the bobbin and also back here. And then I also put a little drop here, and if you look on the Sonata, there's 2 little holes right here. So I go ahead and I put a drop of oil in each of those as well. And it's really important to oil your wheel a lot when you're spinning. But I managed to get through my singles. So I have 2 bobbins of singles down here, and now I can do a 2-ply. And I went ahead and set this up enough that hopefully, let me turn that just a bit. Hopefully you can see what I have going on. So a lot of times what I do is, as I'm getting ready, remember that I spun my singles in a clockwise direction, so I have to do my plying in a counterclockwise direction. So I believe I spun Z and I apply S, but I could be wrong about that. I always forget which one that is. So what I did was I just sort of hand spun a little bit of this in the correct direction. And then I always like to sort of bring it up and wrap it on my hooks on my flyer so that it will hold just enough so that I can use my wheel to kind of get started. And I went ahead and did get started. And you want to make sure that you're putting enough twist in that you have a balanced yarn, but not so much twist that it is twisting back on itself as you're working. And once you have a length of yarn, then you need to put it on your bobbin. And the way that I do that is I always like to start at one end or the other. And I have to think about this for a minute. So I have to go counterclockwise. So I just take this. And some people like to use a leader. I've never liked having leaders on my bobbins. I know I'm kind of weird. It's just the way that I am. Good, 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 good. Okay, good. So you want to make sure that when you are plying together that you are not over plying, because you do not want this to be happening. This is actually okay. Just a little extra active twist is fine. But lots and lots of extra active twist is bad. And when I am plying, I always like to make sure that I keep at least one finger on one hand, but usually I put something like this where it's the middle finger of both hands kind of through my two singles, so that I can make sure that as I ply that I'm not getting any extra twist down into those singles, and that I can control how much ply I have. So anyway, and then I just slide my hand along, and I use my fingers and my hand. And I'm not spinning really fast because this is not a yarn that needs a lot of plying to achieve the look and the balance that I want. Once I get this yarn spun, now that looks pretty good. I could have a little, just a smidgen more twist in there, just to have a tiny bit of extra active twist. So this looks pretty decent. What I will do with this when I'm totally finished is we will talk about how to finish your yarn, because there's actually a process for finishing your yarn where we soak this and then we take some of the water out, and then you have to beat it a little bit so that it folds a little bit, so that the twist is fully distributed throughout the yarn. Anyway, there's this whole process. So once I get this yarn completely plied and spun up, then I'll do a little session on that, probably sometime in the midst of the knit along as well. So I'll keep trying to do the knit along check-ins with every video that I do, and then I'll try to do a little something new, a little teaching something or other as well when we are doing these videos. So this is just kind of how I ply right here. And part of that is that I want to make sure that my singles are coming together evenly. You don't want one single to be feeding more yarn into your finished work than the other, unless you intend to do that. You can do some really fun art yarn by adding more twist in on one side and making sort of a fringy yarn. And there's core spinning and lock spinning and all kinds of things where you are intentionally adding more yarn of one weight than the other. But just for plain basic 2-ply yarn, you just want to make sure that you are keeping it even as you go, and that you aren't putting too much twist in. And in fact, I will probably go ahead and I'll drop my ratio down to my slowest ratio, because I have a tendency to pedal pretty fast, so that my hands can keep up with my treadling, to make sure that I'm not putting too much twist into my yarn. That's a pretty nice yarn, pretty balanced, especially considering that one single is years old and the other one is maybe a week old. So I had to let it age a little bit as well. I think I talked about that in the spinning video, but that's an important piece as well, is that you need to let your yarn age, your singles age before you ply it, especially if you did one like 2 months prior and you did one, you know, like last week, or in my case, like 2 years prior and last week, at least. It might have been more than 2 years. I can't actually remember the last time that I had the wheel out before I got it out to spin with you people. Very sad. So anyway, this is my process. This is how I think about it. When I need to park my yarn, I just kind of do this so that everything's ready to go. And that's my orifice hook, just in case something breaks, it's there. But I use it as a way to park my yarn. And I've been having to hide my spinning wheel in my closet so that my daughter does not play with it because she's only 19 months old. So this looks like a really fun toy. And it is a fun toy, but more for, you know, like 6 years and above, maybe. I don't know. I'd probably have her spinning younger than that. I don't know. We'll cross that road when we get to it. Anyway, if you have questions or if there's something that you would like me to demonstrate, just make sure that you are sending me a message. Let me know because, you know, I want to teach you what you want to learn. Hopefully, if you are doing the knit along, then this little tutorial, oh, I'm sorry, it's a little wobbly. There we go. This little tutorial was helpful for you. And behind me, you can see like all of my unfinished projects and some needles and like all kinds of stuff going on. Because yeah, I'm a crafter. I'm a multi-crafter, clearly, because I'm demonstrating spinning and tatting and knitting and all kinds of stuff. And I'm actually wearing my IOLI shirt today because I was feeling pretty lacy, and it says, I am multilingual, I speak lace, and then it lists a whole bunch of different lace down the side because I'm sad that I won't be going to IOLI. But I am looking forward to visiting my friend Linda, who quilts, and I'm actually going to go work on a quilt for my nephew. Oh, Caitlin, I really hope you're not watching this. Don't watch my videos. You're not allowed to watch my videos because I talk about you all the time. And your children. So don't watch my videos. Yeah, so I'm going to go make a quilt top for my nephew. I'm working on one for my niece downstairs. And once that is further along, I'll post some pictures to the Black Sheep Instagram or something so you can see it. Because I know she won't go to the Black Sheep Instagram, so that'll be good. Anyway. Don't forget we've got the sale on, so we've got a lot of clearance yarn, we have some clearance books. Go to that Black Sheep Fiber Emporium. Make sure that you've liked our page if you like the videos that we're doing. You know, hit that like button as well. Comment, tell us what you want. I did see a comment about knitting apps, and I am not really familiar with a bunch of the knitting apps, so I will try to do some research this weekend and compare some of the knitting apps that are available so that I can talk about those next week when we are catching up with the knit along as well. That way I have a little something to teach again. So Monday, my plan is to talk about the knit along and a comparison of some of the available knitting apps. And then we'll figure out Wednesday later. I don't know what's happening Wednesday yet. Hopefully Tina will be back on Friday with another little video. Maybe she'll show you some more of the clearance yarn, or maybe she'll have a technique to teach. There's all kinds of fun stuff. She has knit-alongs that are coming up as well very soon. She has a t-shirt knit-along, both a knitted and a crocheted. So, hot diggity. I guess that would be a crochet-along. I misspoke. Both a knit-along and a crochet-along for a t-shirt, because that sounds like a lot of fun. So if you're looking for yarn, I can recommend the Mian cotton that we carry. You could do the bamboo wool nylon, which would be lovely. We have some really fabulous universal flax lace. We still have some Kokomo Yarns linen left over. What else do we still have? Oh, and then this stuff. Ooh, the Handmaiden Sea Silk. This is just one of the many skeins of sea silk. And I am using sea lace for that shawl, but I love the sea silk. This would make the knitted t-shirt's actually made out of this sea silk. I think it takes at least 2 skeins. This is really nice stuff. I really, really, really like sea silk. And we have a bunch that is on the way because I ordered some again. Yeah. Oh well, more sea silk, it's coming. along with some fliss, which looks really fun, which is a silk and linen blend that Tina is super excited about. All of those would be awesome blends to work with this summer when it's hot, help keep you knitting, but also let you go ahead and keep cooler, right? Because I mean, I don't want to work on like a worsted weight Afghan this summer. No thanks. Hey, Tina's watching now. I just talked about you. I hope that you are planning to do a video on Friday, something about the technique or yarn, or talk about the knit-alongs or something. What else do we have going on? Oh yeah, and don't forget slow crawl. Do not forget your slow yarn crawl. I have the page set up so that you can enter the various regional drawings, and some of our stores are opening back up. So if you're up for a road trip, do it safely, but they are available again. Make sure that you check the hours and days of our shops. Maybe pop them an email before you go, because you don't want to show up and then be disappointed, and they don't want that to happen either. And remember, we are still doing the couch crawl, so you can just make an order online, say, hey, I'm a slow crawler, and go ahead and get your passport sticker / stamp that way. So yeah, don't forget slow yarn crawl. Lots of pretty patterns there. Lots of pretty patterns. Okay, I will see you all on Wednesday. We'll check in with the progress on the knit along. I will chit chat with you about some of the other things that are happening in our black sheep world that I know about. And anyway, until then, stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, mental health as well. Make sure that you stay crafty, because I mean, that's what's bringing us all together. And I know that crafting has really helped me with my sanity while my husband's been working from home and I'm cooped up with my baby all the time. I love her. So anyway, make sure that you are crafting and that you are taking care of yourselves. And I will see you on Wednesday for another little update about the knit along. So, see you next time.